Today I've got a really cool AI tool that I want to show you. It's been a while since I've done one of these like quick and dirty, show off a cool tool and just play around with it, but that's what I want to do in today's video. This one is actually an AI agent inside of a Chrome extension. The tool I'm talking about is called Mind Studio, and I've played with this tool several times over the years. I've interviewed the founder and the CEO on the podcast, and since I've managed to build a pretty solid relationship with them, they offered to sponsor this video. So thank you so much to Mind Studio for sponsoring this one. But let's dig in and play around with this plugin and see what it's capable of. So if you head on over to mindstudio.ai, there's a giant button right at the top of the screen that says free Chrome extension. Let's go ahead and install this. I'm going to add it to Chrome, and now we can see that Mind Studio is available to us. I'm going to right click on it and pin it so it's available up here. And then I'm going to go ahead and log in with my Google account. Now that I've got this Chrome extension installed, it added this little button over here on my sidebar. If I click this, it opens up a little tray here, and we can see a whole bunch of different pre-made agents that we can use. These are agents that I've built in the past. This BeastBot I actually did in a past video, so you can go check that out if you want. But I want to play around with some of their other pre-built agents. Like they've got a deep research agent, a research people agent, a fact-checking agent, a TLDR agent, various social media agents, agents for students, agents for YouTube videos. And you'll notice that most of these are actually free to use. Some of them do say paid agent below them, but the majority of them are actually free. Let's play around with some of my favorites. Let's go ahead and try this YouTube to X thread agent. I'm going to head on over to my YouTube channel here, and I'm going to turn one of my recent YouTube videos into a Twitter thread. I recently made this video where I tested a whole bunch of AI gadgets and pins while I was at a conference, and I figured this one might be cool to turn into a thread. So let's go ahead and open up this video. I'm going to go ahead and pause it here. And let's just click this button next to run on YouTube to X thread. Click it once, and it's running the agent in the background for us right now. Starting agent, running the background messages, and just like that, it wrote up a thread for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 posts for this thread. I just went ahead and switched my browser to light mode from dark mode so we can read them a little bit easier. But this is a 29-minute video, and in literally a few seconds, it generated a tweet thread for me. Ever struggled to keep track of conversations at multiple tech events? I recently tested 5 AI wearables to help with this. Here's what I found. First up, the compass at $99. Next up, the Plod Note Pen. You may need to fix a few little typos here and there. This is supposed to be the Plod Note Pen. The Bee wearable. This is actually the Bee, like BEE wearable, like a bumblebee. The Limitless Pendant, the Otter app, and at the end, in summary, each wearable has pros and cons. Personally, I lean towards the Bee for constant recording and affordability. Which would you try? I probably wouldn't actually use the hashtags in my tweets. That tends to de-rank your tweets a little bit more now, but it did a really solid job of writing up a X thread for me, albeit I have to correct a couple typos, but I mean, it took me a few seconds from just pulling in a YouTube video. All right, now I'm over on future tools because I want to find a recent news article. Let's open up this. Earth AI confirms 6 new tungsten, cobalt, and gold mineral prospects using predictive artificial intelligence technology. And we've got this article here. Let's open up Mind Studio and let's run the TLDR agent here. I'll just click run. Our agent ran in the background, and literally this took less than 3 seconds to show up. I mean, this was almost instant. I'm sure the longer the article, the longer it takes, but we have a nice summary right here about what this entire article is all about. And then it breaks down all the people and companies and entities mentioned in the article. Just right here in my sidebar, I get all of the information I need to know from this article. All right, let's jump back to YouTube real quick for my next favorite little agent here, and that's the Analyze Comments agent. I'll go to Matthew Berman's channel here, another amazing AI YouTuber, and he did a video all about ChatGPT 4.0. Let's go ahead and analyze the comments and see what people think about the video and decide whether or not maybe this is a topic I'd like to dive into. So I'll click on the video, open up our Mind Studio tray, and then we'll use the Analyze Comments agent here and let it do some analysis for us. And here we go. The sentiment towards this post is overwhelmingly positive, with users expressing excitement and enthusiasm for the new image generation capabilities of ChatGPT 4.0. The comments highlight the impressive realism and creative potential of the technology. Here's the discussed topics here. We get a little sort of tag cloud, key statements. ChatGPT 4.0 images are unreal. It's so amazing. Never been easier. Dangerously good. And then top participants, we can see some of the top people that were commenting on this post here. This is also great if you make your own YouTube videos and maybe you want to tune out some of the negativity and just get some of the actual helpful feedback and see some of the positivity. This can be very, very helpful to get more of that sentiment analysis without having to actually dive into the weeds and read all of the good with the bad. And again, there are so many pre-built agents that are already here for you, like side-by-side product comparisons, an agent that gets emails for you, an agent that expands your knowledge as you read something that pulls out any bias from an existing article. So if you're on like a news website that you know tends to be biased in a certain direction, you can actually have it rewrite the article for you without bias. An agent to simplify, a subtext scan so you can actually look for hidden meanings in things, one that highlights important information from a video or article that you're reading, a content to LinkedIn agent, a content to Instagram agent, an agent that helps with YouTube video ideas, YouTube to articles, an agent that will mass reply to YouTube comments for you, a flashcard generator. Maybe you're on a web page trying to learn about something. You can have it create flashcards to help you lock in the understanding of what you're trying to learn. You can fact check a video. Maybe you just watched a video from another AI YouTuber and you're like, that doesn't sound right. Can you do some extra fact checking for me? You can create cheat sheets off of YouTube videos. You can generate quizzes or extract quotes. If somebody sends you a pitch deck, there's an agent to summarize pitch decks and one to analyze your portfolio. There's even image generation agents built in and agents for developers. Let's say I want to generate some pixel art. I can click this. It'll give me a box saying, what pixel art do you need? Let's do a wolf howling at the moon. And right here inside of my sidebar, totally for free, it's generating a pixel art image for me. And there you go. We've got a pixel art wolf howling at the moon that looks pretty good if you ask me. But here's the thing. These are just the agents that are like built into the platform already, that they pre-made for you. You can actually build your own agents as well. So if I click on this button here, there's a build button. You can see some of the agents that I've built in the past. And straight from my sidebar, I can click these three dots and click edit. And I can actually scroll this open. And look, I've got an editor here where I can tweak my actual automation here. By clicking on automations, you can actually see the visual workflow of this automation that I've built. This is one that I designed to fetch research papers from archive.org, check for newer papers on that same research, simplify the research, generate an audio summary, send the audio summary to me on Slack, and then it ends the workflow. And it's actually got this sort of repeating process to look for more research papers and continue to send them on Slack. And I can trigger this all through a Chrome extension button over here called AI Research Paper. But just for fun, let's go ahead and build one from scratch. I'm gonna actually go ahead and close this Chrome extension. We're gonna jump over to mindstudio.ai here, click into my workspace, and let's build. We'll click on Create New Agent. And just for fun, let's build one that will analyze a GitHub repository for us and explain to us in simple terms what that GitHub repository does and how we can use it. So I'm gonna click into automations here, and you can see we've got a little start and we've got our end here, and we just need to build out the steps in between. So let's click on start, and our trigger, our run mode, we're gonna use the browser extension. You can see these are the variables that we have to play with. So when we click the run button on our browser extension, it will pull in the URL, the metadata, the page content, the full text, any sort of user selection. So if you select some text, and the raw HTML, we can have it pull in any of this information into our actual automation. So let's go ahead and add our first step here. We'll have it generate text, and then we're gonna enter a prompt over on the right side, just like we would enter a prompt into any sort of chatbot like ChatGPT, etc. So let's go ahead and do 2 curly brackets. Don't worry, you don't have to do any coding. All you have to do is remember that if you want to pull in a variable, you just need to put the little curly brackets. We'll go ahead and select page content, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put a space above this and say, the following is the content of a GitHub page. Please explain to me in simple, non-techie terms what this GitHub repository does. What does it help me do? Why would I use it? And then I'll also add, give me step-by-step instructions on how to implement this. And then the output behavior is display to user. So I'll actually see the response and we'll see it in text. Now I could also put this in a variable and send whatever info it gives me to another step. So for example, let's say I want to find out if there's other resources online that do the same thing that this GitHub page does that might be even easier to use. You can see in this first step, it's going to use Claude 3.5 Haiku. In the next step, let's have it use something like Perplexity and search the web for us. So let's go ahead and add another box here. We'll have it generate text. And then on this first box where we had it give this output, let's go ahead and output it to a variable instead. And then we'll call this variable GH summarize for GitHub summarized. So now we've got this new variable for GitHub summarize. We'll go to this next step here. And this time let's change the model to Perplexity instead. Now you can see we've got pretty much every model you can imagine. Amazon's models, Anthropic's models, Cohere's models, DeepSeek's, Gemini, Meta's models, Mistral, OpenAI, and of course Perplexity. Let's go ahead and use their Sonar small online model here. And we'll say, here's a GitHub page. I'm going to put 2 curly brackets. We'll go ahead and pull in the original URL that we're pulling from here. And we'll say, here's what it does. And then I'll pull in our GH summarize variable that we created in this previous step here. And then finally, I'll say, are there any existing tools or other GitHub repos that do the same thing, but better and or easier? Once again, I'm going to save this one to a variable and we'll call this one Perplexity response. I'm going to add one more to display content to the user. And this time I'm going to display back the first output of what this does and the second output of what Perplexity found for us. So I'll say, here's what the original repo does. And then I will pull in our GitHub summarize. And then I'll say, here's what we found that might be better. And then I'll pull in our Perplexity response. Let's go ahead and give this agent a name. We'll call it GitHub Researcher, like so. And of course, you could go in and fill in all these other details here, but I'm just going to leave it as is. And I'll go ahead and publish this one. So now I can use it. Now I'm going to head on over to GitHub and I'm going to come to open source and I'm going to go to trending repositories. Let's just pick one at random. I'm going to change the date range to this month. And there's one called Ladybird here that has 8,490 stars. Let's just open up this one here. So now we're on this GitHub page. If I open up my Mind Studio plugin over on the right, let's look through my agents and you can see I now have my GitHub Researcher. Let's just click run on it and see how it does. I'll press run. It's running all of the processes that I just built. I haven't even read this GitHub repo yet, so I don't even know what it does, but it says, here's what the original repo does. Let me break down what Ladybird is in simple terms and provide implementation steps. Ladybird is a new web browser being developed from scratch. It's like Chrome or Firefox, but with a unique approach. It's completely independent, designed to be secure and robust, currently in early development, aimed at developers. Why would you use it? Experimental new browser, learning about browser internals, contributing to an open source project, potentially a future alternative to Chrome. Implementation steps, it then breaks this all down for me. Prerequisites, computer running Linux, Mac OS or Windows, basic programming knowledge, tells me to clone the repository, install the dependencies. So it gives me the step-by-step process. And I mean, it's a pretty deep explanation of everything here. What is Ladybird? It goes on to give me even more details about this here. And then when we get down to the bottom, this is that second section, comparison with other projects or repositories. This is what Perplexity now found for us. Currently, there is no direct comparison of Ladybird with other projects. However, if you're looking for other open source browser projects that can be similar in focus or functionality, you might consider other experimental browsers or potential forks of the Chromium or Firefox projects. So you can see here, it's looked for competitors for us. While there isn't a direct replacement for Ladybird, currently projects like Serenity OS and its associated browser engines might share some similarities, and it did everything that we just asked it to do. Let's look at the top repository of the past month, AI Hedge Fund. I'll click back here. I'll jump over to this GitHub Researcher that I created. Let's run it on this one. And honestly, this is just scratching the surface. You can see how basic of a workflow I created here. You can get way more in depth. You can have this generate images for you. You could allow users to give extra inputs in the sidebar, query data, run functions, scrape URLs, although it kind of scrapes the URL by default when you use the browser plugin version. And if I click on view all blocks, you can really see how deep we can go here. Analyze images, extract text from files, present branching menus, run other workflows, use logic to dynamically choose next steps, generate charts, search posts on Blue Sky, scrape Facebook pages, scrape Instagram comments, create LinkedIn posts, search X posts, create Google Sheets and Google Docs, and use Hunter.io to find email addresses, and go to YouTube and pull in the YouTube comments, or do a search on YouTube automatically, or even run make.com scenarios, or send emails or SMSs or post messages to Slack. You can get really creative with this sort of agents that you can build, and then it just creates a Chrome extension where you press a button and run it whenever you want. All right, let's check in on our GitHub AI hedge fund repo here. Here's what the original repo does. Let me break it down simply. An educational project that simulates how an AI-powered hedge fund might work. It's not for real trading. It's meant for learning purposes only. It creates a team of AI agents that each act like famous investors like Warren Buffett. These AI agents analyze stocks and make pretend trading decisions. It helps you learn how different investment styles work. Then we have our step-by-step setup here with detailed explanations of the steps. And then we get down here, other GitHub repositories and tools. So there's the ETH Global AI hedge fund agents by whatever that name is, AI hedge fund simulator in Streamlit, and we have some alternatives to this GitHub repository. Again, a simple AI workflow, but a super powerful and really helpful one. I want to make one that whenever I find an interesting news article, it sends out a tweet on my behalf sharing that news article. So I'll come back to the main Mind Studio homepage. I'm going to create a new agent up here. Click on automations. Our start, we're going to have it start from the browser extension. Again, it's pulling in all of this information for us here. So for the first step, I want it to summarize an article for us. So I'll put my two curly brackets. Let's pull in the page's metadata, and we'll also pull in the full text from the page. And then I'll go ahead and summarize the following news article into a 280 character or less X post. Don't use emojis or hashtags. Just summarize the news from this article. Include the original link in the tweet. Be sure the 280 characters factors in the original URL. That way it will actually get it within 280 characters without having the read more button, and include the link. And then I'll also make sure that the link is here as well. And I'll go ahead and throw in the original URL here. And let's go ahead and just give it some extra context. I'm going to go ahead and say metadata, and then I'll say article text, and then I'll say original URL like that. And this is going to be the prompt that we send off to our AI chatbot. For this one, I'd like to use, let's do GPT 4o. I think that's going to do a really good job with the summarization. So we'll go ahead and use this model here. I'm going to set the temperature down to about 1. And then the max response size, we don't need it to be nearly that big. Again, we're only trying to get 280 characters. So I'm going to go a little bit above that, but we'll just leave it there. I'm going to give some extra context to this prompt here and say, don't give any extra context or confirmation, just reply with the tweet. That way it's only going to give me that tweet back. Cool. So now we've got this set up, and I want to save this as a variable, and I'm just going to call this variable tweet text. And then we're going to add one more step here. This time I'm going to click view all blocks, and we will come down to create X post, make a new post, and make sure that is in line here. And then for our post content, we're simply going to pull in our tweet text. And then for the X account, we can have it ask us at the time it runs, or we can connect a new account. I want to make this as easy as possible. So let's go ahead and connect an account. I'm going to connect it to my Future Tools IO account. This is an account that is going to have some automated tweets. So let's go ahead and authorize our app here. And it says we're successfully connected to X. So I can go ahead and close out of that. And under account, we'll make sure it's our Future Tools IO account. And I will click publish. So now here's what we've done. We're firing this off from the browser extension. It's going to write a tweet based on the metadata, article text, and original URL. It's going to then post that tweet directly to X for us. So let's go find a news article here. I'll head back over to futuretools.io, my favorite source of AI news. Let's go ahead and use Anthropic releases economic index insights from Claude 3.7 Sonnet. We've got a nice in-depth article here. Let's see how well our little automation can summarize this and tweet it for us. So we'll go ahead and open our Mind Studio Chrome extension here. And I forgot to name it. So right now it's called Untitled Agent, but this is the one we just created. Before I forget, let's just go ahead and call this News Tweeter. And then I'll go ahead and publish this change here. And then I'm just going to refresh this real quick so that it's updated in our Chrome extension. And now we've got our News Tweeter here. So if I click this, theoretically, it should read everything on this page and write and publish a tweet for us. So let's go ahead and click run. It's doing its thing here. And within seconds, it supposedly did it. So let's head over to x.com/futuretoolsio. And well, it did make it a little bit longer than I wanted, but you can see here, Anthropic's latest report on its economic index reveals the new Claude 3.7 AI has increased its use in coding, education, and scientific applications. Its extended thinking mode is primarily used for technical problem solving. Full data is available for researchers. So it summarized that whole article and linked back to it, all by me just going to the article, opening my Mind Studio extension here, and clicking run on my news tweeter. Again, this tool is called Mind Studio. You can find it over at mindstudio.ai. And if you want to hear an interview with the founder, Dmitry Shapiro, I actually did a full interview with him over on the Next Wave podcast. You can find it over on the Next Wave's YouTube channel, and it's called This AI Tool Automates Any Task in 60 Seconds. So if you want to deep dive into even more of what it's capable of and learn about the founder of this product, you can check that out over on the Next Wave podcast. But that's what I got for you today. I wanted to do one of my old school fun tool breakdown videos. If you like this video and you want more videos like this where I just pick a tool and deep dive on some really cool ways to use it, let me know in the comments. I love making videos like this, but I want to make sure you love when I make videos like this. So let me know if you like cool tool breakdowns, and I will definitely do more of them. Thank you so much for tuning into this one. And thanks again to Mind Studio for sponsoring this one. I really, really appreciate you guys. Thanks for nerding out. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.